Brian. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Level 10 Contractor Daily Podcast. Today, I have a special guest with me, Jessica Brown, VP of Marketing with Builder Prime. If you're a long time listener, you might remember Builder Prime has been on this podcast before, probably a year and a half ago. I've asked them to come back. We're going to talk about, we're going to talk about getting more business without getting new leads. Jessica, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Rich, and Level 10 Contractor. I'm looking forward to our conversation today. As Rich said, I'm currently the VP of Marketing at Builder Prime, which is helping revolutionize the home improvement industry with our all-in-one business management solution, which seamlessly combines CRM, estimating, production management, marketing automation, payments, reporting, and more to help businesses operate more efficiently, win more jobs, and achieve growth goals while delivering a stellar customer experience from lead to referral.
Yeah, I've been knowing Jonathan, I don't know for how long, maybe 5 years or something. Not forever, but also not, a couple months. I've known him for a while. I was there talking to him when this product was, I don't know if it was still in development, hadn't been released yet, but here's what I know. This is a product that was built specifically, hyper specifically for this industry. So it's got a lot of features and functionality that really I don't know if I want to say that aren't found in other competitive products, but they're perfected here in a way that matters. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Rich, for calling that out. Builder Prime was designed specifically for home improvement businesses. And actually, Jonathan created this software while he was working at a home improvement business himself.
Yes, and that's how I met him was doing marketing for that company, and they're like, "Hey, this guy's got this thing," and I mean, it's kind of a weird web that we wove, but Jonathan, again, I know him pretty well, but I know this. I don't want to use the word nerd, but I'm going to use the word nerd anyway. This dude is like geeks out on this stuff. So it's a really cool product. Before we get into our conversation, just give people a heads up if they want to learn more about Builder Prime, they can do that at what, builderprime.com, probably.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, builderprime.com. Okay, so I love our topic today. I've talked about this topic a couple of times on the podcast in the past. Also, I'd like to get your sort of take on this. You're going to come at it from a little bit more of a mechanical, logistical standpoint. Uh, Getting more out of the leads that you have, getting more out of your database, working the leads, working the database. Um, what's the genesis of this topic that makes you interested in it?
Yeah, I think right now it's extremely relevant given that there are new FCC regulations that are going to be taking effect later this month, actually, for how businesses can contact leads from aggregators. And so we want to share some, valuable tips today to adapt your strategy and maximize your existing leads before these changes take place. So learning why referral and repeat customer leads outperform others and how you can capture more of them, how often you should follow up with past customers to stay top of mind and increase sales. And then, of course, how Builder Prime can supercharge your rehash efforts and improve lead conversion. All of these things, along with market saturation, competition, economic uncertainty, and an increase in digital marketing costs, is why it's critically important to have a strategy in place to win without new leads and focus on your existing database.
Yeah, if anybody's out there going, "Hey, what is she talking about? TCPA regulations changing this month." If you don't know, number one, you're pretty much screwed already. Number two, I've been talking about this for months with myself and with various partners. In fact, I think it was November, I ran an episode of the podcast that said something to the effect of "Time's up. You don't have any more time. You've got to get this done now." So hopefully everybody's at least aware of this. But that doesn't mean that everybody's optimized for this. So that's what we're going to talk about. So why don't you jump in and let's go through. I know you got a few different elements of this you want to talk about. So let's start with the first one.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do that. So I think like the first focus area I want to dive into is how can we effectively segment our database of past customers to target specific groups for repeat business or referrals. We hear this topic come up a lot with our customer base, and I wanted to share a few ways of doing this. So, first and foremost, you can do this through workflow automation when you collect the final payment or set up another trigger when the job is complete. These automations are continuous and work on the back end, streamlining your operations, making your life much easier. Alongside this workflow automation, you can set up email sequences, texting, and prompt someone from a call center through a call queue functionality to target repeat business or referrals. I will say all of these efforts are difficult to do manually. So whether you choose Builder Prime's all-in-one business management platform or not, you definitely need a system to be able to accomplish this effectively. And if you have an existing system where you are struggling to do these automations, I would love to help you out and just
So
feel free to
let me
message.
ask you this. So we hear a lot about workflow automation. There's third-party companies out there like Hatch and Structurally that, and let's forget about the AI components of those two things because particularly with Structurally, there's some significant AI things. But outside of that, would this be something that you would bolt those onto this and use those programs along with those, or is this something that replaces the need for those?
Yeah, the latter, Rich. It can definitely replace those functionalities. However, we work with a broad spectrum of businesses. I will say that everyone's on their own journey. So we can replace those technologies and help to reduce your time and costs with that. However, we do work with folks that also have those technologies too. It's whatever your preference is, and I think that's where our product experts can help.
Okay, do you have any, is there AI built into this from the follow-up standpoint? So, like for instance, there's a product out there that will like launch phone calls. It's a pretty futuristic. It's a little, I'm not going to say it's creepy. And probably 5 years from now, not only will it not be creepy, it'll be like, what do you mean that you mean that actual humans used to call people? But now it's kind of a little forward. Is that something that either your system will do and or can be compatible with?
Yeah, Rich, I'm glad you asked about AI. I feel like that's like the magic word of this year and for years to come. So currently our AI functionality is in beta. So that will be hitting GA, will be generally available to folks next year. And I'm glad you asked about that topic because it is all about the speed to lead. I will say this in terms of like text messaging. We are actually 80% faster than the majority of the companies on the market because we were able to send text within seconds versus sending within minutes.
Oh, okay. I was not aware of that. Okay, very cool. Okay, so we've got the idea that we need to segment the database to target specific groups. Now, when you say specific groups, what do you mean exactly by that? Targeting specific groups, like by product type, by what?
Yeah, so I'd say specific groups, meaning like the different audiences that you have in terms of past customers. So being able to basically go after folks for repeat business and referrals and those who have maybe, done one project with you that you're looking to expand and maybe it was recent. Those folks that, you worked with years ago that you haven't yet re-engaged with. Maybe it was a customer that was on the fence recently, like in terms of windows, oftentimes folks will come on to the job, come and to the house and decide, let's move forward with 5, 10 windows versus like the full scope that might be 20 and they maybe not be able to afford it up front. So I think it's just dependent on all of those scenarios, but we want to be able to target all of those folks and really emphasize on how do we re-engage past customers because it's going to be so much easier to win more business from folks that you've already done business with than from net new folks.
So, are there some ways that you can think of that you can do this? Like everybody's always getting a million messages a day, a billion emails, a billion, like the tech. With the election that we had not that long ago, I started getting all of these election text messages. Fortunately, most of them died down, but let's just like, there's a lot of noise. So is there a way to do this? I mean, any ideas how to do this without being super intrusive?
Yes, 100%. And that's where we can definitely help in terms of, I hear Tony Hody and Megan Beatty talk about this a lot as well in terms of the need for relentless reputation management. So that is critical along with cultivating long-term relationships. You can do this from anniversary emails by wishing previous customers a happy anniversary of their project and reminding them what else that you can do from them. From a follow-up inspection, which is an incredible opportunity to impress your customers and also get back in front of them to pitch another project. You can send them or deliver them a thank you gift and personalize based on interests or time of year. Did the customer share something in a conversation that stood out, such as the sports they like to play or watch, their kids' hobbies? Is it summer and they would enjoy a gift card to buy ice cream? I know we're currently in the winter, so they probably more want a hot chocolate, a handwritten.
So, I mean, what I hear you saying
Yeah.
is contextual, what's the right word? Contextualization. Making it contextual is the key to appearing to be less like a pest.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I think it's, from a human to human connection, it's all about like hearing what they're saying and then actively applying that, right? When you're in the home and you're understanding, or when you have your sales folks go out there and estimators go out there and understand, what their needs are. And then if they notice things in the house, or better yet, they have a conversation, they're building rapport. I think it's really great to like take note of that, and always when you're currently in a job, and then for reaching out to them on a later basis. And I do think like a handwritten note goes a long way too. Whether you want to do that with a gift or in lieu of a gift. I know it takes more time and thought to execute these gestures, but they do leave a lasting impression that is truly invaluable, and it will enable the customer to always remember your business. I'll say this, like on a personal note, I'm a new homeowner. We recently purchased our second house here in the greater Denver area. And I received a lot of direct mail from previous home improvement business companies we worked with at our previous house in another area, more south of the city. And the only ones that stood out to me were the ones that were handwritten, personal messages. And I do think within this digital age that we're in, where people get so much, from whether it be email or on social media, there's so many digital messages which honestly blend in together. But if you're able to stand out and have something be handwritten, I definitely think that leaves a lasting impression.
Have you ever heard of a guy named Joe Girard?
I don't think I'm familiar.
I I think he might be dead by now. Sorry, that's a little bit morbid, but he was famous. He was known as the world's greatest car salesman for years and years. And they tracked, I don't know how they tracked this stuff, but he got the award. He had the big heavyweight weight belt and everything. I'm making that up. I don't know if they have a belt, but he was well known and like Guinness Book of World Record. His whole thing was he would send out a handwritten card every month. And I know you're not suggesting every month, but this dude, I remember seeing this. He got up to where he was sending like 13,000 cards a month. I would assume he had a staff to do that. I don't know. One dude, that would freaking kill your hand. But look, I'm not trying to be weird and bring something like peripheral in here, but this idea of this handwritten, I like it. I think it's worth exploring. And if you're in my audience right now listening, I did not just tell you to write freaking 13,000 cards a month. I didn't just say that. But I think what Jessica's saying and what I'm piggybacking on is, yeah, it's a great idea. Try it, see what happens. So that being said, let's move on. What about trying to is there any way to like anticipate when people are going to need their next home improvement project? Because we talked about, doing the follow-up. We want to be as unobtrusive, I do speak English, as possible. Um, but is there some kind of tool that can help predict or can guide you on that?
I'm glad you asked, Branch. That's a really great question. And this is where knowledge is power, honestly. And I think this is where, like, I'd recommend for any home improvement business owner to really empower your team to collect as much information when they're at, the site of when they're at the home, when they're in the home as possible, and being able to capture that information and then in a CRM system. to be able to look later. So, you can look when jobs were completed and when what they were completed for. And then look at the information that your sales team is gathering to be able to come back to later on. I do think that like when I talked about the windows earlier, like an example of this is keeping track of the age of the house. An example would be that houses need windows be replaced after 20 years. So, let's say, there's two scenarios here I want to talk through. Like, scenario one is, they wanted to commit to 5 or 10 windows, but the full scope of the project is actually more around 20 windows, but they just can't afford it up front. Let's say you offered financing, payments, and they still said no, come back to me later. Right. So you would then take that information along with any personalized information from the customer themselves to make them feel special, like we talked about a bit ago. Basically, keep track of that in your CRM and then be able to schedule emails, say like SMS, text messages, along with, queuing up like calls from a call center if needed to around the time that that customer said, hey, maybe I can revisit the windows during this time instead. Or maybe you can even, if you have a holiday offer, you can reach out to them premature and initiate that urgency before they're willing to pull the trigger on that, right? That's scenario one, and using the data to be able to make that happen, and being able to, send text messages, email campaigns that are very relevant to what this customer is saying. Scenario two is, let's say someone just fully bought all of the windows. Let's say they bought out all 20, but then that windows need to be replaced 20 years later, right? So then you would make sure to future proof your future sales
The
team.
20-year follow-up system. That's
Yeah,
that's that's the way to think, man, right there.
exactly. So
Let me
those
ask
are
you this.
yeah.
Does your system allow to do geographic targeting? And I'll tell you why I'm asking. So I live in
Mhm.
Utah, and we don't really get a lot of bad storms. But we had one in August that whipped out, came down the mountains. I live near the mountains. My entire neighborhood's roof got hail damaged and destroyed. And then it went down into the neighboring town, which is called Orem. And you could look on a map. I
Mhm.
saw this. I don't know where I saw this, but I saw it somewhere. It's like, here is the area where the storm basically had a lot of damage. And it was something like 20 or 25,000 homes. Now, this is out of a bigger county area where I'm making up a number now, 100 or 200 or 300,000 homes. How many ever homes? But these 20,000 were affected. Can you say everybody that's in this range because of this storm, we're going to start marketing to them? Is that a thing?
Yes, I'm glad you asked about that. And that's a great example too, and something that's very realistic. Yes, we can be able to segment email campaigns based on different geographies. I think it all just comes down to the data that you have in your system. And that's where making sure you're empowering your team to collect the right data and update it frequently will be very advantageous. So you can do targeted campaigns. And then in addition to those campaigns, like I think you alluded to this before, Rich, it's really important to empower your sales team to set to-dos and reminders with the information that they collect on site. Whether it's a few weeks, a few months, a few years, you want to re-engage, you really need a record for that so that you can target those folks effectively.
Yeah, okay. I mean, and the whole idea here is once you've got this data, now we can upsell, we can resell. Like the example I gave, I can just see a scenario where, like like I mentioned, my roof got destroyed. They actually just finished replacing it. But I also have windows that were damaged. Like the wind was so strong that it damaged, and now when it rains, it comes inside. So just a cool thing to be able to go, hey, I don't know, I'm making this up. We put siding on your house. I see you're in the area of the storm damage. Do you have any window problems, any roof problems? Can we come out and take a look? Boom, you're on top of that. Also, I guess just getting repeat in cross-selling.
100%. And I really think it shows a lot of empathy to the customer if you're able to, if they are going through a difficult time, right? Let's say they were in an impacted area from any environmental factors. I think they would really appreciate that because they're, one, probably freaking out. that they had this damage happen. And if you brought up the roofing example, it's really scary. Actually, I'll mention this personal story as well. So I'm from California, a group in San Diego. My dad is a guest surgeon in Mammoth Lakes, California. And so he will go up there. And so I went up to Mammoth all the time growing up, from San Diego. And, in recent years, they've had a historical amount of snowfall. So what that has meant for the neighborhood is that people have so much weight with snow on their roofs. They're having to like replace roofs at record amounts of time, or at least do really in tremendous amounts of snow removal at the least. So I've actually seen that happen, and it became very problematic, honestly, because it was almost like citywide with Mammoth. It's a really small town in
Yeah, yeah.
Sierra Nevada mountain range in California. So with not a lot of
Where all the
access.
runners live.
Yeah, exactly.
They do their high
So
altitude training there.
100%. Yeah, all of the Olympians, they all run there. So I was just gonna say that, for something like that scenario, that, the home improvement contractors that are serving that area, when they know that there are huge amounts of snowfall, that the getting ahead of it and being proactive is really helpful.
Yeah, I was just thinking about this. That example I was given with the storm here. Here's a big problem that I don't think most contractors really are aware of. Here's what it is. They come out to your house, they sell you $15,000 worth of windows, or they put in the case of my house, a $44,000 roof on my house. And they just sort of assume that, oh, this customer and customers at large, number one, know everything that this company does and remembers who the freaking company was. Like, hey, you just spent $15,000 with us. You're going to know who we are. And, 3 years from now or whatever, when something happens and you need a similar type of service or the same type of service again, people are just going to automatically be like, oh, yeah, I went with XYZ roofing. And so I'm going to call them again. People don't remember. They don't remember. And here's the reason they don't care. You're a roofing company, you're a window company. You wanted to buy windows, you bought the windows, they installed them, everything was fine. Now you're moving on with your life, and 3 years later, you don't know who it was, you don't care who it was because it was freaking 3 years ago, and now I'm on to this year's pile of crap that I got to deal with. People just do not remember who you are, no matter how great you think you are, no matter how awesome you think the job was that you did, they just don't know. So if you don't use this kind of software to stay in front of them continually, I love the ideas about sending them things that are personalized to them to be a little less obtrusive. Uh, and a lot of let me say this differently. Here's what you don't want to become. I'm not talking to you, Jessica. I'm talking to the audience listening. You don't want to become my freaking dentist. Here's what my dentist does. My dentist sends me a greeting card on my birthday. Like I'm looking for like a $5 check from my grandma in there or something. It's like, hey, Rich, thinking of you on your birthday. It's like, this is just dumb. So if you've got enough data where you can be sending them stuff, maybe you send stuff that's holiday related. It's like, hey, we were having a 4th of July sale. Hey, we're having a Veterans Day. Hey, if you're a veteran, you get an extra 10% off. Hey, it's the anniversary of when we did your project, whatever it was. And you've got a cadence with these folks, again, who are going to completely forget you within 5 seconds after the job is over. If you can get a cadence with them so they see you on a consistent basis, that's where the real money is made in this thing, is the consistency and the frequency. What do you think is a good frequency? I have an idea, but I want to see what you think. So a customer came, they did business with you. Now it's in the rearview mirror. How often should we be reaching out to them, do you think?
I'd recommend following up after every step, Rich. Keeping communication going after
No,
the
after
appointment.
it's done. It's done. The
Oh,
project's done. I wrote the
yeah.
final check. My windows are great. Everything was fine. I'll even give you a Google review. Now it's the rest of my life. How long should this contractor be following up with me in some way, shape, or form?
Yeah, I think like to be honest with you, it will just depend on the size of the company and the demographic and whatnot. There's some like different like behavioral trends. The best you could do like market, you can actually ask the customers themselves. Honestly, I love to learn in our business. I love to learn from our customers, and I'd recommend for home improvement businesses to learn from their customers. You could send out a short survey right after the job is done. You could say, how often do you want to hear from me? Chances are like you're gonna have
I don't think I would ask that question because honestly, if they asked me that question, I'd be like, "Hey, here's a good cadence. Never. I don't ever want to hear from you again." And here's why. It's nothing personal. It's just I'm done. I'm over it. Move on with your life. I'll move. Here's what I would say. I would follow up with a monthly, probably quarterly through the mail, actual physical mail, so that we know they're going to see it. It's going to get into their mailbox. And then on the other months, what is that? Quarterly's four. So then there's 8 more months. I'm not that great at math, but 8 more months, I would say hit them with an email, hit them with a text, maybe both. And let's just stay in front of them. Again, if it's done contextually sensitive, then I don't think people are going to be like, "Oh." Like there's this old episode of Seinfeld where Kramer gets mad at the U.S. Postal Service and he goes and he tries to opt out of mail. And they're like, "Oh, how long do you want to stop your mail for?" He's like, "No, no, no, no. I want out completely. I don't ever want to get mail." And they're like, "Ah," they freak out. People don't care if they're getting stuff in the mail, and I don't think they'll care if they're getting stuff in email and text as long as it's done sensibly. Sensibly.
yeah. No, I mean I agree with that recommendation, honestly. And hey, take it or leave it. If you want to ask for customer feedback, I think like it works for some, not for others. I definitely think there's like some behavioral dynamics there because not every human operates the same way. But I do think that like what you mentioned with like the monthly, the quarterly, just staying top of mind and providing valuable offers to folks, how can you add value to them? And maybe it's not just an offer. Maybe you lure them in with market trends or with, what you said before about the weather and incorporating any environmental factors, like making it very contextual, will stand out. And if people can connect the dots between why exactly you're reaching out and how you can help them solve their pain, I think that's really important here. So to be honest with you, to take a step back in order to take a step forward, I think it's about identifying how you can help to solve for customers' pain points. So how can you help solve for these homeowners' pain points? And the more data that you can collect from them, that will help inform you of how often you should reach out to them, whether you send a survey or not.
Okay, cool. Let's as we kind of start to land the plane here, let's talk about rehash because I know CRM is a huge what? It's a huge important tool in rehash. So let's talk about that. What are you guys seeing in terms of rehash?
Yeah, when jobs don't sell, you can send direct mail along with all of the digital touches that have been mentioned via email campaign and SMS. You might want to give the customer 24 hours or a few days, but whatever it is that you will likely want to get feedback from the appointment as to why exactly the job didn't sell. This could be caused by price, timing, customer experience, etc. For price, you could provide discounts or you could decide, you can help them to decide to do it now to prevent XYZ from happening. Similar to what I was talking about before about like understanding their pain, infusing that of like, hey, I'd highly recommend you doing this now versus later to help solve for X pain point. And then if there was a customer experience issue, such as whether, not to target sales. I love sales, by the way, as a marketing leader. I love you guys. But let's say a sales rep was rude, you can send someone else out to rectify the situation, in a short turnaround. Overall, like just like we were talking about, the theme of this is be consistent. So ensure rehash is consistent. Text messaging is preferable or it could be an email or a call, depending on the demographic. And Build a Prime can help automate this for you.
Yeah, I mean, such a powerful tool if you'll just use it. I mean, a big part of the problem I see is that people have these very powerful CRMs, and then look, there's other CRMs that also have a lot of functionalities that are pretty good, but just people are only using a small part of it. So, do you guys offer some kind of ongoing trainings or some kind of courses to help people get the most out of this software?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, Rich. We actually have best in class customer support that's here to help you. We also do a lot of different thought leadership webinars throughout the year for different types of learning. If you head to buildaprime.com, we actually recently redid our entire website and it's much more easy to consume. And so if you go to the resources section, you can see there's like a watch, learn, as well as read. So whatever you prefer. If you prefer to watch, listen, or read, we have resources that will help you. And then
Okay.
also our customer support is there to, tailor things to your business.
Okay, very cool. So, if people want to learn more about Builder Prime, they can go to builderprime.com. Anything else they need to know about connecting with you guys?
Rich, I'm glad you asked that question. I'd recommend folks to go to builderprime.com and schedule a demo with one of our product experts today. And that way we can learn about your business, what exact pain points you're experiencing, and be able to offer the best solution to meet your business's needs.
Okay, very cool. So, builderprime.com. Jessica, appreciate your time today on the podcast. I'm sure we'll have you around again. And who knows, maybe I'll come on your I don't know if you, what do you have, podcasts or webinars? What do you guys have?
Yeah, right now we do a lot of events per year, around 50. So whether it be a webinar and then we're exploring our own podcast as well, we'd love to have you as a guest either way, Rich.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for your time today. And hey, here's to a great 2025.
I couldn't agree more, everyone. Happy New Year. And please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly if you need any help on anything. Thank you.
Bye bye.